I want to tell you about my client, Kevin, who came to me with what he considered to be a shameful secret. He hadn't had sex for over a year, and he was starting to feel like something was seriously wrong with him. He was shocked when I told him that this is actually incredibly common among men these days. But just because it's common doesn't mean that it isn't cause for concern. Sex is a basic human function, and our sexual health is part of our general health and well-being. Kevin was right to be concerned, and we worked together to get his sex life back on track. And I'm gonna tell you the exact steps that I guided him through to help him get his mojo back and start having not just sex again, but better sex than before. But first, it's important to understand how prolonged periods of celibacy affect the body and the mind. And just so you are aware, this information absolutely applies to sexless relationships as well. So if you're having sex less than once a month, if you haven't had sex in a decade, you are going to be feeling these effects. So listen up. Number one, effects on mental health. First up, let's talk about your mental well-being. Studies have shown that not having sex for an extended period of time can lead to an increased risk of depression, anxiety, and other mood disorders. We all know how great our minds and bodies feel after getting laid, and that's because sex releases feel-good hormones like endorphins, dopamine, and oxytocin, which can improve your mood and reduce stress levels. Our bodies are wired to desire and need a balanced level of these hormones for optimal functioning. And if we're not getting enough of them, it can start a domino effect of other aspects of our lives falling out of whack. Now you may be saying to yourself, gosh, that seems so obvious. Of course I'm depressed because I'm not having sex. But actually take a moment to think about and really consider, is your mental health, is your depression or your anxiety connected in a meaningful way to a lack of sex? And if so, it's time to address that. Kevin was feeling a sense of emptiness and exhaustion in his day-to-day life. He was struggling to feel motivated and energized, and this only made it harder for him to go out and meet people. The first step was becoming aware of all of the ways that his sexlessness was contributing to these issues so that we could develop a game plan to have him tackle them. Aside from the simple but important matter of brain chemistry, not having sex for an extended period of time also deeply impacts our emotional health, which brings me to number two. As if a lack of happy chemicals wasn't enough, Kevin also noticed some deeper feelings of what I would call emotional distress. He noted that in the past several months, his self-esteem was crumbling. He didn't like what he saw when he looked at himself in the mirror. He started wondering if he just wasn't charming or attractive or basically good enough for women to want to have sex with him. He also noticed that he was feeling jealous of his male friends who were having regular sex or were in relationships that seemed sexual. None of this felt like him. He didn't recognize himself, and he didn't like the thoughts and the feelings that he was experiencing. And the truth is, they all make total sense. I mean, think about it. As human beings, we are so good at blaming ourselves. He was deprived of the happy chemicals we talked about earlier and basically forced into a low energy rut. So it makes perfect sense that he would then start to question what was wrong with him, put the blame on himself. Or a lot of men actually go in the other direction and blame women. But either way, the more that you experience blame, whether it's internal or external, the more that you look for flaws, the harder it gets to get out of the rut. Of course, we did get him out of the rut, and I'm going to share exactly how, but first, let's get to the last and equally important way that prolonged celibacy affects us, which is number three, our physical health. When it comes to sexlessness, it's not just a matter of the mind or the heart. Prolonged periods of celibacy have real physical effects on the human body, and this is where these things can really turn into a vicious cycle. Not having sex for a long time can lead to a decrease in testosterone levels, which can result in decreased muscle mass, decreased bone density, and even erectile dysfunction. In addition, not having sex can also affect your immune system, which makes you more susceptible to illness and infection. Those side effects are no joke. And the worst part is, the less sex you have, the less attractive you feel. And the less attractive you feel, the less attractive you are to others, making it that much harder to actually put yourself out there and get laid. So how did we pull Kevin out of this celibacy, out of this sexless rut? Well, number one, he went on the hunt for happy chemicals. The first step toward getting Kevin back in the saddle was to boost his energy and get him feeling better about himself. We had to stop the vicious cycle of self-loathing and self-blame and find ways for him to appreciate himself and feel connected to his body again. And again, if you find yourself blaming women, It's the same, just instead of self-blame, looking at others. Either way, you still gotta come back to you. Now, look, if you've been celibate for a while, you're probably not going to feel comfortable or capable of diving straight into the deep end and just showing up at a bar and hitting on women. And I don't think you should. We started with getting Kevin to regularly exercise, like move his physical body. He got a membership at a gym, he worked out, he swam. This is a great way to get those endorphins up and make us feel energized and content. I encouraged him to open up with his friends about his issues and to lean on people for emotional support. If you're trapped in isolation, having other people bolster you is a great way to end that cycle. And yeah, he started eating better and being more mindful of his sleep schedule. And very critically important, he stopped watching porn, because for so many reasons, porn and regular use of it robs you of not just your happy chemicals, but also your desire to go out and do anything about your sex life. And for some men, even robs you of your willingness to go do anything about your life. So he quit that, he got his mind and his body right. And maybe you're thinking, Caitlin, this is boring. Well, yeah, maybe, but it also works, okay? A lot of people out here want to sell you a pill or a two-step or whatever. Put in the work. Step 2. Yourself. I've said it before and I will say it probably 100 times again. If you want to catch all of those, make sure you subscribe. The way you have sex with yourself is a dress rehearsal for how you others. If you are jerking off like it's a race, not taking time to feel sensations of pleasure, to practice endurance and sensuality, well, guess what? You're only gonna get more and more disconnected from your body. Kevin had to slow it down. He masturbated regularly and within reason, and it gave him an opportunity to reconnect to his body in a way that actually made him feel worthy of pleasure and eroticism. Modern philosopher RuPaul said it best: if you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you gonna love somebody else? Which brings me to our next step. Number 3, consider a sex worker. Sex work is work and it's there for a reason. Ultimately, Kevin was looking for a relationship, but in the meantime, he had to get back into the swing of things sexually. And the idea of going on a date felt beyond intimidating to him. So I brought up the idea of working with a sex worker as a bridge to approaching a woman he was romantically interested in. There's a lot of different ways to do this. You could go to a happy ending massage parlor or go to see an escort, as was the case with him. And he found it to be really helpful and a really great experience. She was patient and kind, and he felt like the pressure of impressing her and the risk of rejection was taken off the table, which made him able to enjoy the sexual experience and rip that band-aid of celibacy off, so to speak. Slowly, through working on himself and expanding his approach to experiencing sexual connection and pleasure, Kevin was starting to feel more energized again. So we built him up to a place where he had the confidence and the motivation to start getting back out there and dating. And the truth is, most of us experience periods of sexlessness at some point in our lives. It's important to be mindful of our sexual health and satisfaction and avoid blaming yourself when you've been out of the game, even if it's been a very long time. So if you are in a dry spell right now, whether that's a month, a year, 10 years, know that you are totally worthy of the fantastic sex that you desire, and that there are plenty of people who would love to give it to you. And of course, if you want to fast track getting out of that rut, and if you want to feel confident in your body's ability to get and maintain an erection when that moment comes, please check out my course, Hard As You Want. It is all about getting regular, consistent, firmer erections, especially if you've been out of the game for a while and you're not exactly sure what's preventing you from showing up fully at attention. Or you just want to feel confident that when you do get that date and you are with that woman in the privacy of your bedroom, you can confidently rely on your body to do exactly what you want it to do. Comes with a 90-day money-back guarantee. Check it out. The link is in the description. Thank you. I'm Caitlin V, and I'll see you here next week.